Welcome, educators, parents, and scholar gamers to the Academy of Esports podcast. This is the podcast where James O'Hagan delves into topics surrounding esports and education. Esports are organized competitive video games allowing schools to redefine their athletic culture, diversify opportunities for student participation, promote physical and mental health, increase collegiate scholarship pathways, and play games. We can never forget the importance of play. The mission of the Academy of Esports is to support these ideals. The vision of the Academy of Esports is for all students to experience the fun and joy of playing competitive video games. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to the Academy of Esports podcast. I'm your host, James O'Hagan, and I'm here with Brandon Smith and Richard Buckley. Both of them are shoutcasters for FIFA 19, though I guess you do FIFA 18 and you've done 17 is what I've read as well, too. Is that correct, gentlemen?
It is indeed,
yes,
yep.
That is correct.
Awesome. FIFA, Brandon and Richard, if one of you could just describe what the game is. A lot of people here, again, educators and parents don't necessarily know all the games, so just give us a brief overview of what FIFA 19 really is.
Yeah. So FIFA is basically virtual football. You can play a number of game modes on it, such as Ultimate Team, which is kind of single player. So the way that FIFA works is, it's best known as in an esport is you're playing on your own. It's a 1v1 esport, and you're controlling obviously all the players on the field simultaneously with a console controller. It's not on PC, it's all on console. And it's the biggest selling sports game today, and it's so popular.
Well, I am a fan of the Premier League a little bit. I follow Liverpool. It's funny though, my reasons I like Liverpool is only because I saw a movie years ago. I think it was called Formula 54, which starred Samuel Jackson. And it takes place all around the Manchester-Liverpool match that's upcoming, at least at the time in the movie. So that's how I got to like Liverpool. So that's the only reason I know really of it. But yeah, it's FIFA 19 is so it's kind of like in the United States. For those of you here, it would be like how we would play Madden football. So again, you have a team and you're controlling all players on the team, and then kind of the same concept around that too. So gentlemen, one of the big things too about this podcast is I'm trying to connect educators and kids in with what you do and how you got to be a shoutcaster. First off, how do you describe shoutcasting to somebody who you meet on the street and they ask you, what do you do?
So for me, the question is first that you get is, so what is it that you do? You travel to all over the world commentating on a video game, and people earn money from playing this video game. So you got to break it down first if somebody doesn't really understand what esports is. In terms of FIFA in particular, it's really been backed in the last probably 2.5 years. This is the third year as part of a journey that EA Sports, the people who make the game, have really took esports under the wing. Before this, it wasn't really their main vocal point that they were looking towards. Whereas right now, you've got 160,000 people with a peak viewership at one of the events this year.
Wow.
They're really trying to break into that, you'd say, top tier of esports titles, League of Legends, Dota, CS, and they're on the way to doing this. Me and Brandon have been part of it probably since May, June 2017, so not even 2 years yet. We've been going to the events all over the world, and if someone to come up to me and ask what I do for a living, I just say, imagine what a football commentator does, imagine what any sports commentator does. I just do it over a virtual pitch. It's the exact same. You've got two athletes competing. They're the best in the world at what they do. Sometimes the best 32 players in the world. They come to an event similar to like the Olympics or similar to any sort of event, and then they play. We just happen to broadcast the action to the viewers at home.
And it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody recently who, when I explained to them what esports was or is, they said it sounds like a waste of time. I asked them, I said, tell me, do you watch football? And he goes, absolutely, I watch football. I said, how long is a football match? He goes, it's about 3 hours. And I said, in a football game or a football match, you're spending 3 hours sitting on a couch watching humans do something, and you're not doing a whole much other than cheering for them. I said, esports is a lot of the same concept. It's just the medium has changed. And when you tell people that, they really start to go, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. It's not, they don't see it as much of a waste of time as it is their entertainment. It is their sports. And you gentlemen are the ones who are calling the action and saying, this is what's happening, and trying to educate people about the game. And do you see any major differences between, obviously, the electronic version and the real life version?
I'd say the biggest difference is, and again, this is another question that people ask, is like, well, why would you want to watch, virtual FIFA or virtual football, not the real game? And the answer to that is, you can make more storylines, and it's kind of more entertaining at times, the virtual game, because you can be 4-0 down and still come back and win a game 5-4. You can score a crazy goal. You can, win games with maybe not as good of a team, or it just creates more stories, and in a quicker period of time than, potentially what the real life game of football does. But the relationship between football and FIFA is so good, because say if, Cristiano Ronaldo goes and scores a hat-trick at the weekend, he'll get a special upgraded foot item in the game of FIFA, and then that affects the kind of environment of esports FIFA, because then all the professional players are going to use that Ronaldo because he's got the best stats. So there's always a link between the real world and the virtual, and EA Sports have got it, on point. It works really well.
Okay. And what about the personalities of the competitors themselves? Are they as varied as the soccer competitors?
I think in terms of the personalities in FIFA, you've got a few that are really outlandish, you'd say, the ones that really stand out. There's a gentleman called Harry, who plays for United. That's one of the biggest FIFA organisations actually around at the minute. Over, I think, 300,000 followers on Twitter.
Wow.
The owner has got over 700,000 followers, or 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And this player in particular is very just connected to the fans. He'll talk. He's the personality, and it just happens to be that they connect through the medium of FIFA. Whereas other players, it's all FIFA, and that's quite similar to real life. You've got people like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's a character. He's almost bigger than the game itself. People go to watch Zlatan just to see him play. They're not going particularly just to watch the game itself. So that's where you get also, which is good about FIFA, you get two different audiences. You get people who are going to watch the best players in the world play FIFA and try and learn and pick up tips, pick up almost advice from these people doing it at the best level. But you're going to watch people like Harry, like Kurt, who are these big personalities in the FIFA scene who are actually really driving it on. And I think the more personalities, the better. If you look at other esports titles, such like a Call of Duty, there's more people going to watch Optic Gaming, and when I used to watch Call of Duty, there were more people going to watch Nadeshot just playing the game itself rather than the actual competition itself. So that's only going to increase viewership, increase more people getting involved, and at the end of the day, make the esport a better thing to watch.
So I guess now that some of the bigger questions that people are going to have as they're listening to this and hearing what you have to say is, how do you even get started in doing something like this? It's not like you just showed up. I mean, did you do a tryout? How did you build your brand? How did you build yourself up into this? The
way I would describe it is, right place, right time. And at the same time, having the desire, the attitude, the work ethic to make it happen. Me and Richard, we both wanted a career in broadcasting. For me, it was kind of more football commentary at the time. Richard, did a lot of radio. Before we met, basically, if you didn't know the story, I live in the kind of like near the south of England, right near the sea, right at the bottom of England, and then Richard's kind of more in the northern area, and we kind of live 4 hours apart. Both went to university in Manchester, and studied journalism together because that's what our passion was. It was trying to find a career in broadcasting, and we kind of bumped into each other. If I never went to university, if Richard never went, we might not be here today, or we definitely wouldn't be as a duo and doing, luckily as well as we are. But no, went to university together, and then within our first year, I was approached by a friend of mine, my flatmate, in fact, saying I've been offered by a friend to start up an esports league, which would be streamed on Twitch TV every week. Viewers up and down, anywhere between 10 to 100. Commentating over, it was like 8 to 10 Irish teams, so coming from the Irish league, clubs involved there with their own FIFA players. There wasn't really any money in it. It was just experience, and it was something that I was like, wow, this is cool. I've always played FIFA. Richard's always played FIFA. We've always watched those events, and Richard can say it as well. We both watched those events and been like, wow, we'd love to be involved somehow. Didn't think much of the opportunity that I did get. I was very grateful for it. It was a 14-week league. 7 weeks into it, I was doing it on my own still, and I was like, this is too much for me to do. Asked Richard to come on board. From week 8 onwards, and about week 12, week 13 into that league, EA Sports themselves announced a competition called the Commentators Cup, in which they're going to be looking for the next 2 FIFA commentators, which, in their eyes, it may have been a competition just to find some commentators that might not have they might not have been involved in the events, might have just been a cool opportunity for the esports scene. But we saw that opportunity. I remember my friend sent me a tweet and going, "Have you seen this, Brandon?" I'm like, "Okay, I haven't seen this yet." Jumped at the chance. You talk about commitment and stuff. We were in my university dorm. We were in a blazer and a shirt in front of a PC webcam, commentating over 1 minute 30 of action. It was short. It was sweet. Submitted it 30 minutes before the deadline, and just went to ourselves. We've done what we can. Let's see if we get it. A week or 2 went by, nothing came of it, and then next thing you know, we get an email saying you've made the finals, and we're like, wow. We've never really had that opportunity where someone pays for your travel, a hotel for the night. We went to London, Richard's first time in London. Obviously from living up north. For me, I've been to London a few times, but it was still an amazing experience. Then we kind of went there, Rich, didn't we? And it went on from there.
Yeah, we went down to the competition. 4 teams, 4 duos were there as well alongside us. A few of them had experience doing a little bit of commentary. If we keep on saying commentary, that's just us saying shoutcasting. So we went down to the tournament, did our first game, the semi-finals, and we got through to the finals. And then this was it. I think when you look back at it, it's almost like this was almost a make or break opportunity for us, because if you don't win this competition, you're never really going to get a look in again, potentially. But at the time, you don't think about that. You're just thinking, look, let's just do it. Like, we didn't even think we'd got this far. So everything on top of this is a bonus right now. So we went into the final, happened to win that competition, and then got 2 tickets, me and Brandon, to fly over to Berlin in about a week afterwards, and got to commentate on 1 match at the FIFA Interactive FIFA Ultimate Team Championships 2017. This was the biggest tournament EA had ever put on. The winner of the tournament got $160,000, and me and Brandon were just happy to be there as part of it. Really, meeting people pro players that we'd seen on TV and seen on Twitch doing their thing, meeting YouTubers and personalities that we'd seen probably for the last 5 years, watching their content on YouTube. But we went in with a very professional mindset. When you get an opportunity like this, it's important to not be a fan, but to be a colleague. There's a quote that me and Brandon like to say, and it's work so hard that the people that you used to look up to you call you colleagues in the end. So we're going into this. In our head, I'm thinking, wow, I've watched Spencer Owen, Spencer FC on YouTube for 5 years. He's got 2 million subscribers. But when I'm there, nice to meet you, Spencer. My name is Richard. We're going to be commentating this one game in particular. Happened to do a good job of the game, and the tournament finished. We both went home. I went back up north to Barnsley, to Manchester. Brandon went back down south. And we were chatting still, but we didn't think anything had come of it. We just thought this was a cool opportunity. Grateful for the opportunity. Probably about 4 days later, Brandon got a call from Amsterdam, from AFC Ajax. If you don't know who they are, they're the biggest club in the Netherlands, biggest football club in the Netherlands, and a huge player in FIFA Esports. So we were thinking, wow, what is this all about? So they wanted a 2 commentators to commentate their event, the Ziggo E-Battle in Amsterdam. Me and Brandon went over there. We got €800 between us. That was the total amount that they could afford. And we also had to buy his flight and hotel out of the €800. So we went. We didn't get a hotel because we couldn't afford it. We got his flight. We went over. We got there for about 10 a.m. Commentated midday until 9 p.m. at night. We stayed on one of the pro players' floor the night in the hotel. We woke up at 5 a.m. and we came home and we were like, that's amazing. That sort of grind. I often say embrace the grind. You've just got to put in the work. If you put in the work, you'll see the results. Because a week later, we got a call from FIFA, the governing body FIFA themselves, asking if we want to go over to Munich to commentate the FIFA Interactive World Cup qualifiers, Europe portion. We went over there, we did that. Again, barely any money involved, but it wasn't really for the money at this point. I'm just turned 19. Brandon's 20. It's just about getting that experience. That's one thing that, for the students listening to this, experience is so influential and it's so important over anything else. People are going to ask, excuse me, people are going to ask for experience over anything else. So after that, we made some more contacts. We got the opportunity to fly to Los Angeles. We got the opportunity to fly to Qatar, all within 3 months, 2 months of winning this competition. Just because we'd put his name out there, people saw that we were this up-and-coming sort of commentary duo. We had so much hunger to just go and get it, whatever it may be. We'd travel to anywhere. Went to Sweden for 24 hours, did a tournament there. We've been to San Francisco for 24 hours, flew in, done the tournament, stayed a night and come home, all within, I think we saw San Francisco for 4 hours altogether. The other time we were there, we were either flying in an airport or at the event. And then that paid off. We got the opportunity to go to the Interactive World Cup Grand Final 2017, all within 4 months of winning this competition. We were commentating the biggest FIFA event ever. It was live on Sky Sports, which is the number one Sky Sports, the number one sport platform in the UK. $200,000 for the winner of the tournament. There were 7 million people watching around the world during this tournament, and this was sort of like, look, we're here now, and this is it. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to put everything into it.
Now, just to add on to that, you know, Richard mentioned about the budget a few times and, the kind of money, but, to be fair to Ajax and to be fair to, FIFA and stuff, these were kind of things that they weren't prepared for because, we weren't even prepared. We weren't even estimating that we were going to have this breakthrough. It was more of a kind of desire from me and Richard that, if the money's not there or if, you haven't got the budget, to be honest, we don't really care.
We just want to free, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to.
Don't tell people that.
But more in the sense of just, starting out, for us, it was experience, as Richard said. And from that, you gain the contacts, you gain the network. Then when they want you again for another season, or you say, right, now we look at a budget, now we try and be, fairer in that. And to be fair, there's organisations, we're still working with them today. We've done a lot of good things with Ajax, a lot of good stuff with FIFA. And, it just goes to show how you can start a relationship with such a big, governing body, such a big organisation. And that's kind of our story as such. As long-winded as it is, we do apologise.
No.
It kind of just gives you that insight.
Well, I have some follow-ups to your story. First off, I'm from the San Francisco area originally, so if you ever get the chance, do go back, but make sure you're getting paid for whatever it is that you're going there for, because it is horribly expensive to go to San Francisco in that area. How old are you guys?
I'm 20. Brandon's 21.
Oh, geez. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of the high school kids who are trying to do this right now are also in the same boat as you. So, how did you do all this travel and your schoolwork? Obviously, you were at university at the time, correct?
Yeah. So
still am. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, we're in our third and final year at the moment, which we are supposed to be doing a dissertation at some point. But we're let's just say we're quite busy. But to be honest, we're kind of in a position where our university have been great to us. You go to maybe a number of other universities, they'll be quite strict and be like, right, if you don't get this done here and there, we're kicking you out kind of thing. But it's never been like that for a university because our university kind of views us as like a
marketing tool. Yeah.
At the same time to say, right, this is what we can create. This is what our degree has provided. In respect, we've created a lot of it ourselves. However, that support they've given us, that extra kind of bit of leeway with a bit of work here and there. Attendance if it's off a little bit, but we are traveling around doing events. They can understand that. But no, definitely, I would say the key thing is for me and Richard is that we were never going to quit university. It was always a case of get that degree. You pay enough money for it here in the UK, and it's always good to have that backup option. And it's just there. You've done it. It's there. It's on your CV. And the university life experience, it grows you as a person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you kind of alluded to, it's something for the university to point to and say, we're meeting our kids where we're at, we're preparing them for the world, and why would we not want to give our students here every opportunity to follow this experience? I mean, you guys, are both of you journalism majors?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so it fits right into that too. And one of the things I think about when you were talking about going to all these events and calling all of these things, I'm a huge fan of listening to baseball games. I know baseball is not very popular in the UK, but there's a difference between watching it on television and listening to it and being able to hear the action being called. And there's a baseball announcer for the Chicago Cubs. His name is Pat Hughes, and he talks about how he sets up his scorecard so that he can keep track of what players are in the game. And he talks about how instead of spelling the name out as it's normally spelled, he always spells out names phonetically so he knows how to say the name properly every time. And then he says in his scorecard he includes the statistics from where the person was in the series, where they are coming into the game. And then he also writes down in the scorecard on the sidebar, he writes down some interesting things that he does as far as his research goes, stories about some of the players, so that he can kind of paint a broader picture. How do you two prepare? You talk about going to all these different matches, and you talked about being a colleague of these players. How do you prepare to go into these matches to paint the better picture for people who may be watching this for the first time?
We prepare through a lot of just staying on the pulse of FIFA at the minute. So we're always on Twitter, we're always on Instagram, always on social media, Twitch TV. A lot of the pro players will stream. You'll pick up little bits and nuggets of information here and there. Mm-hmm. Before an event, me and Brandon will get together in a Skype call and we'll look down every player participating, previous results, previous how they qualified for an event as well, and also just through communication. This weekend in particular, we were doing an event in London, and we travelled down on the Friday. On the Saturday morning, we got to the event, and the players were warming up. There's nothing better than going into it. You've got unbelievable access to these players. We can go in, we can chat. How are you been preparing? Are you feeling confident? Just little things like that, which the normal person at home watching, they're not ever going to be able to find that information out, because a lot of these players, they've got 50, 60, 70,000 followers on Twitter. They're willing to take question and answers from fans and things, but getting actually into that sort of, I wouldn't say personal life, but just getting a little peek behind the curtain that me and Brandon can offer, I think that is one of the big things that we bring out. We'll be commentating and I'll say, I caught up with Goal Machine earlier today, who is a player in FIFA, and when they were walking to get his food, actually, we're talking about how they travel over from Canada. He's feeling a little bit tired right now with the flight and things like that, and jet lag's kicking in. Mm. People aren't going to pick up on that if they're just watching from home. So I think just talking, if you are doing an event and some of the students potentially get an opportunity to commentate or present or host or do anything at an event and they're in front of the camera, just bring that little bit of information that the person from home isn't going to know. The one thing that people need to remember is if you're watching an esport event, you've got a passion about that game. You're going to know how they qualified. You're going to know all these things. The job of the commentator is to give information that the person at home doesn't know. Give them something that they can go away with and go, if you're going to talk to your friend about it, watching it, and Brandon said that Goal Machine had only actually conceded 7 goals coming into this tournament. You're not going to pick up on that little bit of information. So I think communication is a big one.
as I'm pulling this podcast together, like I said, there's a particular student with which who all she wants to do is just shoutcast. I will definitely be sharing that because, you hear what you said about I'm traveling to this place and this place and this place, and that the preparation may get lost when people hear the jet setting and the traveling and the things like that. Of course, I'm 43 years old. I'm not sleeping on the floor of anybody's room, but that doesn't sound glamorous to me. But you're paying your dues. You're getting you're laying groundwork and as a professional to build up your brand and all of this. So it's not just going to be all of a sudden a jet set lifestyle that's glamorous. As you said, you were in San Francisco for a very short time, turned around and flew back the next day, which I'm sure was. My father used to be a pilot for United Airlines, and I know what it's like where he would go to these places and it sounds fantastic, but he would literally crash on a bed and then get back up the next day and turn around and fly back somewhere else. So I understand completely. So as far as your coming into all of this, you said you started from your dorm rooms. Was there anything in your school experience that prepared you to do this? Were there any clubs? Was there anything that you even did before you got to university that you feel really prepared you? Was there a teacher who maybe kind of, got you hooked into using technology or computers or anything like that hooked you into this at all?
I think, we've both got different stories. For me, it was a kind of a realization of, obviously, as any young boy, I wanted to be a footballer, as any, football lover, wanted to back then, but you get to the stage where it's like, that's not going to be possible anymore. However, I still wanted to be involved in the sport in some way, and I was like, let's just try football commentary. I never thought I'd be able to get into it. I never thought I'd be able to do it. But you think about something you want to do. For me, it was a case of I want to do something where I can travel around the world, do something I love, and try and benefit off that. And luckily enough for me, I was going down to my local club, at the time, and I was doing some commentating down there. I started up a podcast, and it's just all about the experience of broadcasting as such, as Richard will explain a bit more.
Yeah, so me and Brendan, we had quite, I'd say, different sort of. It's weird that we both had different journeys, but we ended up at exactly the same point together. Mm-hmm. So I. There's a famous radio station in England called TalkSport, and there's a guy on it called Adrian Durham. And he's a little bit like Max Kellerman over in the States. He's very controversial with what he says, and I always thought I could do that. I feel like I could get that sort of reaction from people because Max Kellerman, he might not be the most liked, but everybody knows who he is, so he's doing a good job. And that's what I wanted to sort of do, just be on radio, just talking, getting reactions, getting interaction from people. So when I was at high school, I never thought it'd be a realistic goal. So I was doing music, and I did music throughout most of my life, playing brass instruments, and that's what I was going to do. That was my realistic goal, safe to say. But on the side, I always had this dream of doing something in radio, doing something in speaking, in journalism, just something. So I went down to my local radio station and I inquired about maybe doing a sports show or something just along the lines of maybe just something, just to get a little bit of experience. So they got back to me probably. I did a little bit of training. I did 5 weeks training, and then they said, when something comes up, we'll get in contact with you. 4 months later, I got an email, and they said, we have got a slot on a Saturday afternoon, which is peak for English football. That is the day all the games are played on a Saturday, pretty much. Saturday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 5 o'clock. It's going to be 4 hours, and it's called The Richard and Adam Show. That was the guy that I was doing the show with. So this is what we did. I did it for this. You can tell that when you're dedicated about something, because even if sometimes if you're a little bit ill, you'll not do something, or if you're just not really feeling at it, you'll pass it up. I did 70 plus weeks in a row. I didn't miss a show. Every single Saturday, I was there, 1 o'clock. Welcome to the Richard and Adam Show, and it just gave me so much experience, just talking, getting phone calls from people, and I did that for 70 plus weeks in a row, between the age of 15 to 17 roughly. Didn't get paid a cent. did not get 1 penny for doing it.
Wait, you were 15 years old doing this on a radio station?
Correct, yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
And that was just some sort of the experience that you get. And I think when I went to university, I didn't have any... I wanted to carry on this radio dream, but I didn't know how I'd get about it. Brandon came into me and were like, look, we've got this sort of podcast, we can do this FIFA stuff, do you fancy doing it? And it was sort of... I'd not spoken for maybe, a year and a half since I'd left the radio station, not done any public speaking. But once you get the experience, it'll never leave you. Mm-hmm. So no matter if it's big, small, there were probably roughly 17 people listening a weekend. We had max, I think it was 3,500 one weekend. Average of probably 60 people listening to this radio show. As long as you feel like you're doing a good job, just carry on doing it. And if you get enjoyment out of it, I'd say that's the number one thing. Because it doesn't matter how many people are watching, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid for it. If you enjoy doing what you're doing, you will continue to do it, and you'll continue to see improvement.
Yeah, I never started this podcast to make any money. Leo Laporte, who runs Twit TV, his advice was, if you're doing something and you're talking about something that you love, it doesn't matter how many listeners you get or anything like that. It's because you're doing it for the right reasons, that you do it for the love of what you're doing. And as you said, you were working from 15 to 17 years old, not getting paid a cent, but you were speaking. You got a prime slot while Premiership was wrapping up or going on during the day. So the matches, you're able to do the analysis on the fly. That's fantastic. And so you had the club, you had the experience of working in a radio station. How about your parental support in all this? Because I know that there are probably some parents, especially when we're talking about, we're talking about video gaming and stereotypes around gaming and gaming culture, which, the more we look into it, the stereotypes are less and less the child in the basement hidden away, eating bad food. It's a very pro-social environment. There's a lot of positives around it. So where did you have parental support in all this as you made your trek? I know, Richard, you were doing a more conventional approach. You were doing radio, where Brandon, it sounds like you started more going right through the podcast and the shoutcasting realm. But how's parent support been through all this? Obviously, they want you to finish your studies, of course, I hope, right?
Yes, they're actually quite stressed, to be honest. I feel a bit sorry for them. They keep saying, whatever you do, make sure you do your degree, make sure you do the degree. It's been an interesting one for me. Richard's got a great story as well that we'll come on to in a minute regarding, just our parents and stuff. I think we're very lucky that we've both got a very supportive family because, still to this day, esports has got such a bad stigma about, what are video games good for? What can they bring? What good can they bring? And they're out there changing people's lives at the moment and giving them, probably one of the dream job for a lot of people, including us. For me, it was a case I started doing this commentating in the FIFA stuff, and then it got to a stage where I think it was maybe like November last year, not last year, the year before, so 2017 November. After we did guitar at Los Angeles, and we were coming up to do the San Francisco event, where we mentioned there wasn't too much, of an income coming in. My dad kind of turned around to me and was like, what are you going to do when you finish uni then? And I just turned around and I said, I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to make it work. And then, after that, we go and sign to a talent agency, and then we start getting, a regular fee. We start getting looked after even better. They're called an agency called Digital Sports Management. Two guys there that created that and have been, part of our success as well. And, they've done some great stuff. But regarding family support, they love it. They come down to the events when they can in London. And for them, it's just like me and Richard working on TV. Like, you see the setups we work on. It's just like a TV show. We've been on Sky Sports. We've, worked with the likes of Manchester City. We worked with Ajax. We've been on, ESPN. We've been on all these big TV shows, and they get it. That's the key thing. And as long as you got the support of your family, that's everything.
Yeah, family. I know from me with even going back to like the radio stuff, because my mum and dad knew that I was passionate about this. They support me all the way. My dad, from time to time, he'd take me to the radio station. He'd pick me up from the radio station when I needed to. And then with the FIFA stuff, it was probably around December time, 2017, coming into 2018, We'd been signed with Digital Sports Management probably 3 to 4 months, and my mum said to me, "You've got two paths you can go on right now. You can carry on doing it as you are, and maybe take it more of a hobby and get a so-called real job and do this as a hobby, do the FIFA stuff, or you can really apply yourself. You and Brandon can make something of this right now, and you can go down that path, and you can be doing this for 10, 15, 20 years." And we went down that path, and I think it's worked perfectly for us. We've pretty much done all the FIFA events that we've had the opportunity to do. So far, we've been at the biggest FIFA events that have ever been undertaken, and working alongside Digital Sports Management, we signed a contract extension to take us pretty much for the next year and a half alongside those guys. So they're going to be looking after us. They're going to be making sure that we get the best deals, and we're not only doing FIFA stuff, but we're branching out. We're doing mainstream things. We did some presenting with Red Bull. We've been working with football clubs as well. So there's a lot of potential going forward, and my mum and dad are so proud.
Yeah, branching out was actually going to be my follow-up to this. Was how are you looking to branch out through this? But it sounds like through other speaking, your exposure and your branding is building you into being able to go beyond just FIFA. Have you? And that's something that, again, when we're talking about esports, when we're talking about this on the podcast of the Academy of Esports, I always talk about using esports as a vehicle to get us to somewhere else, to connect us into other things. It's, if we just focus on the games, we're stuck in just the games. Whereas if we look at everything else that's included in this, while shoutcasting is one component, the student may also, who's doing this, be a good shoutcaster, but also be good at, say, watching for tendencies in matches that they can pick up and coach the other people who are on their team, per se. So there's a lot of opportunity here. Is there any other opportunities you have as far as branching out right now that you wish to share or talk about?
I think the key thing for us is, when you talk about opportunities, there's a whole range of them. For example, as Richard said, we've done some cool stuff with Red Bull. Mm-hmm. We've worked with a number of other brands as well, which is, so key. And, one thing I'd say as well is, like, the one thing that's, taken us to the next level as well is probably a lot of PR stuff that we've done. We've done a lot of interviews. As Richard mentioned, TalkSport, the show that you used to listen to, we were on there last year doing an interview. We've done interviews on Sky Sports. We've been on the TV. Like, I'd say one thing to do is if there's news companies out there that are trusted and we've got some good coverage and some good numbers, like for example some esports, like Esports Insider or something on those lines. Just try and take all the coverage you can, because it will build you up. It will build the brand as such. And I think what me and Richard have been able to do, kind of build up this kind of, duo vibe, and to be like kind of the face of our esport is something that was not easy. It wasn't done overnight, but right. I think the way we've gone about it is been done very well.
And here's the big one, I guess. Have you been asked to do live matches yet, or do you see the ability to translate this directly from the console side over to a live match?
I think we definitely have the commentary capabilities, myself and Brandon, to be able to do live matches. People often ask, so when are you going to go into real football? When are you going to do real football? I think we both always give the answer. We're very, very happy at the minute doing FIFA. For the main fact is that we get to connect with the players themselves. We get to connect with the fans a lot more. I think when you go into real football, there's just something different about esports. It's much more of I'd say family vibe. I'd say it's everyone wants to see each other do well. We want to see the players do well, because if the players are enjoying it and the players are doing well, more people's going to have eyes on the product, more people's going to be hearing us, there's going to be more people watching, more sponsors getting involved. Whereas with real football, you go to the event, you commentate, you come home. I don't know, I think for right now, I think esports and FIFA in particular is where we're going to be at.
And there also is a lot of carryover between the traditional clubs and the esports, is what I've seen, at least from news stories, where the traditional Premier League or English League clubs are also creating esports entities under their branding. Is that correct?
Yes. So I think, about the football clubs and stuff, you mentioned how maybe football, we could say, struggles a little bit in America. You've got probably one of the biggest up-to-date leagues launching. Obviously, you've got the MLS, but it's called the EMLS. It kicks off, actually, when we're recording this, the day after till tomorrow. It kicks off on the 22nd of January. So basically, as part of the big EA Sports Global Series this year, the competitive structure, there's, is it 6 leagues, Richard, or was it 8?
Six, I think.
I think it's right between 6 and 8, like partnered leagues as such. So these are the leagues that are kind of more recognised by EA Sports. For example, the Premier League, the E-Premier League's come in, the Virtual Bundesliga in Germany, the Orange E-Liga 1 in France, the E-Divisie in Holland. There's so many big leagues out there, and the MLS is part of that as well. So a great stat that we always like to talk about is that there's been so many more fans now going to MLS games because they've connected via video games. There's a stat online, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. And basically, because of that EMLS creation of all these gamers now representing every single club involved in the EMLS, both conferences, it's been able to grow the league. And, you've seen how well the MLS has done in the last few years, how it's gone more global. This is just helping that. And, there's a number of leagues doing this.
Yeah. I know that we're coming up on the time. I know that you guys are very busy, and I want to keep you to that. I have one last question, though. I always say I have a last question when I interview somebody, and then they say something, and it brings us to another branch. But hopefully we're not going to go too far down a rabbit hole. So for somebody who is starting, a student who is just wanting to get into this, what do they need to do to start? How do they find matches to shoutcast? Do they just ask somebody? Do they just how do they, I guess, just start shoutcasting other than just jumping in and doing it?
I'd say firstly decide what you want to be. Are you looking more to be a play-by-play or a colour commentator? So with myself and Brandon's the play-by-play and the colour. Both roles are quite different, so analyse the roles first. What you want to, almost what your skill set is more favourable towards. You always want to play to your strengths. I think that's something very interesting. Like, I know that Brandon is a much better play-by-play commentator than I am, and I possess the stats that make me a good colour commentator. So you've got to be able to play to the strengths that you possess. Go on Twitch, go on Twitter, and look at the game that you want to do. If it's Overwatch, if it's FIFA, if it's League of Legends, get VODs from tournaments. Look at the people who are doing it right now at the very top of the level. If I were going to go and commentate Call of Duty, for example, if I'm brand new onto the scene, I just want to get into esports, I'd go into Call of Duty and I'd look, who's the leading commentators right now, and what are they doing well? What's Benson doing well? What's Maven doing well? What are these people who are at the top of the game doing that makes them so good? Is it that their voice is very good to listen to? Do they possess knowledge of the game that is so strong? Are they just really confident in front of camera and it makes other people feel at ease to bring them out of the shell potentially a little bit? So what is it that makes the people at the best, safe to say? And then don't copy what they're doing, but just take little bits from everybody. If you like something good that Maven's doing, take a little bit of that. If you like something that Golden Boy's doing, just take a little bit of that. And then slowly you'll start to mould your own character. For me and Brandon, I know we both have people from me in particular. I've got people from esports and I've got people from real sports who I wouldn't say that I have moulded myself about them, but I've just looked at what they're doing really well. So in esports, Mr. X, he's one of the leading analysts. He used to do Call of Duty and now he's part of the Overwatch League. He's arguably one of the best commentators, one of the best analysts to ever do it. And the way that he just analyzes things, I've tried just taking a little bit of that into my game. So when I first started FIFA, I'd get very excited about things. I'd get very, very amped up. Like if someone scored a fantastic goal, but if you're doing that all the time, there's nothing special about it when it does happen, and it's a really, really good goal.
Right.
So what he does in particular, he's he's down. He's super calm. And then when something does happen, you hear it in his voice. When he's getting excited, you know as a viewer, oh my God, something is happening right now. And it just adds that little bit more of flavour into the broadcast. So I'd say tips to get into it, look at what other people are doing in the scene, get VODs, and then just do it. Just practice. Keep on putting yourself out there. and try your best and never say no to any opportunity. That's what me and Brandon did, and we were just like, yeah, we'll do it, yeah, we'll do it, yeah, we'll do it. And for that first 3-4 months, when we first got into it, between May and August, we were traveling every 8 days to somewhere else just to do it, just to get experience. Because then you can go to people like FIFA, like EA, and say, I've done this, and this, because it shows that you're serious about it. You're not just coming in just to make money or just to do it just to pay a paycheck. You're in it because you actually care about the game.
Well, gentlemen, Brandon Smith, Richard Buckley, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedules to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That will do it for this week on the Academy of Esports. I've been your host, James O'Hagan. You may follow me on Twitter at Jim O'Hagan. That's spelled at JIMOHAGAN. And through the Academy of Esports account at TAO Esports. That's spelled at TAOESPORTS. It's a great way to get the latest blog posts, podcast episodes, and news coming out of esports and education. And remember, you can continue your engagement by going to www.taoesports.com. You can also connect through Facebook at www.facebook.com/TAOesports. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to our time again next week.